Welcome to our year-end review of WSIU On Topic. I'm Jennifer Fuller, along with Jack Tichenor of the Paul Simon Public Policy Institute at SIU Carbondale. 2017 was a big year in Illinois politics, and we start with probably the biggest story. That's the end of the budget impasse. Jack, that's big news.
It is, and it's going to dominate the headlines throughout the coming year because the tax increase that was passed back in the summer really didn't solve the state's fiscal problem. So we're going to be going into this with anywhere from $1.5 billion to more in debt in terms of structural deficit, and fixing this is going to be extremely complicated because we're going into, yes, another election year. Back in the summer, of course, you saw a handful of Senate and House Republicans join the Democratic majorities to pass this budget, $36.1 billion for fiscal year 2018. The income tax goes back up to 4.95%. They overrode the governor's vetoes on that. So we finished this two-year budget impasse and avoided junk bond status by a whisker or two. But the situation is the budget writers who crafted this bill were using revenue forecasts that turned out to be overly optimistic by about $1 billion, meaning that the state wasn't taking in nearly the amount of money that they thought would be there for the remainder of the last part of that fiscal year. So you're starting the new fiscal year with a structural deficit. You combine those shortfalls in the revenue estimates with another $500 million or so that was supposed to come from a new version of pension reform that's going to take longer to implement than lawmakers expected. We also haven't sold the James R. Thompson Center in Chicago, so that's another $350 million or so. So we're going to be going into this situation with less money than we thought we had. This, of course, comes on top of the fact a lot of the state executive agencies were sitting on about $2.8 billion in debts or back bills that we didn't know about. So what's it all mean? It means that lawmakers and the governor are going to have to make even deeper cuts in the budget than the $3 billion reduction that was built into the spending plan back earlier in the fiscal year. The budget experts in the legislature tell me that the majority of those cuts are going to have to come in human services and the education and higher education budgets, and those suffered plenty during the impasse. So this is not going to be a very pleasant situation, contemplating cuts at a time when we've already raised taxes.
Well, that's a pretty good picture of it. Was there any good news?
There was good news. The lawmakers and the governor finally agreed on a plan to make fundamental changes to the way Illinois funds its schools. That's eventually going to help our poorest schools in the state of Illinois finally come up to closer to a level playing field.
Jack Tichenor with WSIU and the Paul Simon Public Policy Institute. Thanks.